Fighting Blindness Canada's Young Leaders program is a career-oriented initiative that provides young people living with vision loss in Canada with the tools they need to develop their skills and pursue rewarding careers. The session you're about to watch is a recording. To learn more about the Young Leaders program, please visit the link in the video description below. The Young Leaders program is proudly supported by RBC Future Launch, Rhythm Pharmaceuticals, and the J.P. Bickell Foundation. We hope that you enjoy the session and share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Thank you for watching.
Alrighty, well, this brings us to our career panel today, this morning. So I have three wonderful people here around me who are going to talk a little bit about what they do. Just trying to inspire you guys and give you guys a taste of the different things there is out there. So you guys are going to hear my voice enough today, so I'm going to let each and every single one of these people introduce themselves. We'll just start off with some generic questions, and we'll go through. So I'll start with my left. This is Alan Bridgeman. We have Matt Janz here, and we have Jacqueline Yao. Is that how you say last name? Jacqueline Yao. So I'll let them tell you what they do, and we'll go from there. So we'll start with Alan. You want to tell us, how you heard about, have you ever been involved with Young Leaders before? That's one question, and then the other question is, what do you do, and how have you gotten to where you are today? Just give us a little bit of your, walk us through your career a little bit.
All right. Hi, everyone. You guys can hear me fine, right? Yeah, cool. Awesome. So as he said, my name's Alan Bridgeman. So in terms of Young Leaders and Fighting Blindness Canada, you should probably know I'm still used to calling it Foundation Fighting Blindness. So that should tell you a little bit. But I was involved in 2016, 2017. So it's been a few years since I've done most of this stuff. But that's kind of where I came from. And I became a donor and got involved. And they do some interesting research. And so it was just it was time to try and get back involved and try to come back. I will get to that in just a moment in terms of why I left a little bit, but so, and then the other question of who I am and what I do. So I founded and now run my own business. It's called Bridgeman Accessible. The cheesy tagline is a man to bridge your accessibility gap. So, keep that in mind. I sort of do digital accessibility, so helping people bring their websites into being accessible, making documents accessible, working on videos and media. The camera guy can maybe, no. So doing all that sort of stuff, as well as I want to get into building products that help all of you. So if you have ideas or thoughts or concerns or things you don't like about stuff that exists, come talk to me, and we might be able to figure something out and design some plans and get grants and such. But anyway, how I got here is I worked, I got my Bachelor of Computer Science, and then I went and worked at a number of different places, including the Government of Canada, the RCMP, as well as then I went and came to a conference kind of similar to this for the Accessible Canada Act a few years ago. I got seated at a table with a guy from Microsoft, and I chatted his ear off until he gave me an interview, basically. So these are the kind of events that get you jobs. So, talk to people, get to know people, and work it. So, and then I worked at Microsoft in the States for a year and a half to 2 years. And then I worked in Vancouver for a year and a half to 2 years, also for Microsoft, but Microsoft Canada, which is technically separate. It's weird. Anyway, whatever. And then I decided to start my own company. A lot of that had to do with, and this is where it gets a little bit weird, but I was going down a path to get into digital security. I worked in document encryption, which was a lot of fun, really interesting, but not really what I was passionate about, kind of to what Bobby was talking about earlier. And so I really wanted to get back to my passion of helping people with visual impairments, people with disabilities, doing like technology to better their lives. So that's sort of me. Hopefully I didn't take too long. Thanks.
Very interesting. There's no such thing as too long. So we'll move on to Matt.
Hello, my name is Matt Janz. I'm from Calgary, Alberta. What do I say again?
Sorry?
Do I say what? How? Oh, Foundation Fighting Blindness. Yeah, I'm older too. Foundation Fighting Blindness is how I say Fighting Blindness Canada as well. I got involved. I think my parents had been donating to Foundation Fighting Blindness for a long time, so I'd always gone to events like Comic Vision. That's Foundation Fighting Blindness, right?
Yep.
Yeah, totally. Comic Vision.
Kind of know.
Yeah, right. That, yeah. So I've always gone to events. It's always been really lovely. And then just over the past few years have gotten into our Young Leaders events and stuff, mostly because of my starting up a club called Skate Bats here in Calgary. Whoa, it's sorry, I brought some of my crew and we're loud. Yeah, the squad. We squatted up today. So I started back in 2019. Well, the story goes back in 2019, a fully blind professional skateboarder named Dan Mancina came to Calgary to put on a demo for a bunch of low vision kids out of our schools here. And we saw like 30 low vision kids sign up for this event. And so we saw a huge need for adaptive skateboarding here in Calgary. I had a couple of friends watching me lose my sight at the same time while still stupidly skateboarding aggressively. I don't know, I still make it work. But they helped me start a club for kids here in Calgary to approach skateboarding safely as with lower vision. So we've been skateboarding for the past 3 years. Zach and Gabe kill it, and Braden, I call him Turbo Braden. I can't get him to slow down. But Skate Bats is doing really good, and this year we just started partnering with the CNIB officially, and they are paying our bills. So that's pretty sick, man. Oh, it's sick. And then I also work for an organization here in Calgary called Pace Kids. I'm on their fund development team, so I write lots of emails and do lots of presentations. And Pace Kids is a school for children with disabilities as well. So lots of adaptive work in my life. Jacqueline, you good? Jacqueline? Oh, sorry. Here's the mic.
Hi everyone, I am Jacqueline Yao. I am from Vancouver, BC. I am an early childhood, and I can teach from infants to school age, but I mainly do with 3 to 5 year olds in a daycare. And what's another question?
How long have you been with Camp?
Oh yeah, I was a participant in 2019 in the Vancouver Summit, and I've been attending since, and I've been a co-chair last year, and I got called in for this year too.
How'd you get to where you are?
Huh?
How'd you get to where you are?
Like in the easy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, my bad. Sorry. Public speaking, can't do it.
All good.
So I was inspired by my preschool teacher who taught me when I was 3 years old, and she was my inspiration on how I got to be in the ECE field, and also helped that everything was large print. So I knew that it was up my path. Another part is that I was very inspired by that I could be an inspiration for other children who are visually impaired, because in my first practicum, I had this one child who was visually impaired, and she was also albino as well. And so she felt really different and really out of the loop. Mm-hmm. And the teachers had no idea anything about visually impaired. I came in here as a practicum student, and I basically re-taught them on how to help children with vision loss. Mm-hmm. It's like in circle time, when I had a book, I gave her a book so she could read along with me instead of her trying to see what I'm reading. And just like try to be adaptive to her and to both of us actually, and to show the teachers how to be more accessible to people who have vision loss.
Thank you, Jacqueline. My next question that goes out to all of our panelists here is, what's a day in the life like? Walk us through it. Start on my left here.
Oh, you start with the hardest one. Okay. I guess what does a day in the life of a company owner, sort of CEO, sort of look like? That's a hard question to answer for my company because we do a lot of different things. So, usually what will happen is I'll usually have a bunch of meetings first thing in the morning, especially because I had clients in the eastern provinces, so like Ontario and Quebec, as well as kind of Manitoba. And I lived in Pacific time, which was always fun. I'm sure my neighbors loved me. But I was in Vancouver, I should have said. I now live in Winnipeg, but I was in Vancouver. It's very confusing. I apologize. But anyway, So I'd normally take some meetings because they were at work and I was also at work, so it just kind of worked out that way. Usually I'd kind of make my to-do list for the rest of the day while I was going through meetings, working with people, knowing what their deadlines were, because they would change from day to day, which is always fun, working with clients. Yeah. Anyway, for anybody that works with people, it can get complicated fast. Anyway, so once I had sort of worked with them, have my to-do list, then I started working with my people. So usually I have a couple subcontractors or kind of people that I work with. I'll have meetings with them, go through what they need to do for the day, and make sure that they get done. And then I'll start working on my own stuff. So usually that involves coding or working on a document, working on a video. I do video editing, and I also started doing some animation. I was talking to somebody in the room about that. That's really cool. That's really fun. I did that for 1 or 2 people. So it varies a lot based on just what I'm working on at the time. Sometimes the other part that I do is go look for other projects while I'm doing all this. So yeah, there's a lot to it. My day varies a lot based on sort of what's happening. So yeah. I don't know. Hopefully that's a good enough answer for people.
Okay. I don't know what to talk about. Skate bats or pace kids?
Whichever one you want.
Well, I'll do both real quick. Pace kids is my day job, so it's really straightforward. I just wake up. If I'm at home, I just get to walk down into my basement. That's really nice. Or I'll go into my office with my lovely coworkers. I start off the day usually by just checking emails and then setting my meetings for the day. Really boring, but not boring. Useful stuff that I really enjoy. Whenever I get an email, I'm like, yes.
Man, I didn't say no. What is this?
Yeah, I don't. You get more emails than I do.
Oh, probably.
When I get an email, it's someone donating to my organization, so it's like way more positive. Yeah.
Mine's always somebody complaining. So.
Yeah, for sure. I'm the one who complains at my work. Yeah.
Okay.
So if I was working for you, I'd complain to you.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. No, I just kind of do low-key stuff in the morning. Usually it's our team meetings to catch up with the whole team and make sure we're all on the same page. And then my afternoons are filled with my portfolio of projects. So I'm writing major advertisements for our organization. I'm setting meetings with service clubs to do live presentations. Setting meetings with major donors and stuff. And so usually in the afternoon, that's where I'll do all that work. Meeting with someone, connecting with people, telling the story of Pace Kids, and really making sure that our constituency of donors really has a good understanding of what Pace Kids is doing in the here and now. Which is just for that story. It's just I just get to tell stories of children growing and becoming and growing into their potential with the help of our wonderful and caring staff of teachers and CTAs and therapists and whatnot. So basically, in my day job, I just get to be a storyteller and tell this really beautiful story of an organization that's helping people, and that's really fulfilling. And then skate bats is way different. It's a little more like eating pizza on a curb with a bunch of skateboarders. Usually it's more of a summer thing because we live in Canada and weather dependency. So usually we meet up at the park with the crew. We start making a bunch of noise. Our people look at us weird with our white canes and our skateboards. It's kind of always a little different. We're kind of groundbreaking still. But usually with skate bats, we'll show up to a park. We'll make sure everyone's there and safe. Everyone has their gear. Usually someone forgets their helmet. Usually that person's me. But the very next thing we do at the skate park is we actually start to adapt it for our own purposes. So a lot of our skateboarders, we have some usable vision, myself included, but we need some adaptations to the park. So we'll go around actually laying down a bunch of brightly colored duct tape on certain portions of the park, usually transitions from the beginning of a ramp to the end of the ramp. Or if someone wants to skate a specific obstacle, we'll make some high contrast markings that help them get to that obstacle, on that obstacle, and then away from that obstacle. And so we'll adapt the park in very specific ways. We use bright colored duct tape or beeper boxes that we've stolen from adaptive frisbees. Lots of other things. We have volunteers who come in and help out, and then we just skate. Everyone is individual, everyone's different, and their skateboarding is all different. So I just kind of run around. In my job there, I run around and facilitate the most stoke, the best skateboarding. And so I'll run around with my background in skateboarding. I'll run around giving advice. I'll give some stabilization and some coaching. And then I really just see to it that my participants are having fun. They're expressing themselves the way they want to, and they're pushing themselves and learning and using their courage to expand who they are as people. So what's that, Doc?
Making sure not
and making sure not to die, because dying is rude. Yeah. But almost dying is hype. Yeah. So skate bats is a little more fun. Yeah, it's a little more like loosey goosey. We just kind of get down and get crazy. So at Pace Kids, I'm very subdued, and I only pull a prank on a coworker every once in a while. But at skate bats, we get wild, and we usually find something that gets our blood pumping a little bit. So I could say more, but I should probably stop. Do you want to talk? Okay. Jacqueline's gonna talk now.
So I forgot to mention earlier in the first question that I also, with being a daycare early childhood educator too, I also do day camp, birthday parties, after school care, and I run my own programs like sports and whatnot. Anything under the umbrella I've probably done with children at least. And so basically in my typical day, in the daycare sense, we open, depending on the shifts, there's so many shifts, there's 4 teachers, so we go through different shifts. But the typical day is we open the daycare, we open up all set up the activities and the learning centers. We do circle time, we do toileting too with the children. Some of them are potty trained, some of them are in diapers. We also do outside, we have morning snack, afternoon snack, and lunch with them. And then they get picked up, and they're pretty much brings out the child in me every day.
Yeah.
Pretty much, I could be Peter Pan.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and then for birthday parties, I just contact the families. I make sure that everything runs smoothly. I want the best experience for them. The children age ranges from 1 to 10 years old. We set up a bouncy castle. It could be also just a sport theme as well. I just want them to have the best experience, and yeah, that's.
All right, perfect. Well, our next question here is an interesting one. It's about disclosure to your employer about your vision. For some of us, it's quite obvious. For some of us, they sometimes don't know. So I'm just curious, by a show of hands, how many, because there's a young group here, how many of you guys have had a job before? Put your hand up. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Okay, well, for some of you guys, this might be very, very valuable. We'll go around here. How did you disclose your vision to your employer? I guess now you own your own, but you were working for someone at some point, so let's hear it.
Man, ruined my joke. Anyway, yeah, well, so my current one is fine, but yeah, so in terms of usually the way that I do disclosure with employers is usually I'll make sure I come in and sort of do a good interview and, let them know that I know what I'm doing and that, I am 100% competent and that I'm going to meet what they want, and then sort of disclose sort of closer to the end. So, I don't hide it. I don't, try and conceal it or anything like that, but I usually wait till kind of they know that I can do what they're asking and then sort of disclose it. I'm pretty lucky because I do have a fair bit of sight myself, so usually it doesn't come up in terms of having an issue during the interview or beforehand. But I'm also pretty open with my vision. My mom loves to tell this story of I was a little kid about like 5 years old playing soccer, and this kid kicked this ball in front of me and turned to me and goes, "What are you, blind?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just I was like, "Okay, cool." Anyway, now what? But anyway, yeah. So I tend to just sort of approach it that way in terms of competent and then disclose. But hopefully that's helpful. Thanks.
Oh, sorry.
Probably Pace Kids is...
Pace Kids is pretty adaptive. And I got the job through the CNIB's Come to Work program. So my advice in terms of self-advocating or self-disclosing is have someone on your side. The way that I went through it was through the CNIB's Come to Work program, my employer just knew everything that they needed to know about me before they even met me. My boss's boss actually used to work for the CNIB, so everything was really laid out for me to come in and have really no sticking points or issues in terms of explaining myself. And then with like my other job was Skate Bats, it's a skateboarding program for visually impaired people, so it's pretty self-explanatory. And so I think in my life with my career path, I've just, to my own design or not, I've just made sure that what I'm doing is about being adaptive for people, being adaptive for everybody, fully able-bodied or not. And so my passion is helping, just like Bobby, break down barriers for people, be that with children learning how to navigate the world in their wheelchairs, perhaps at Pace Kids, or shredders, like that table back there, learning how to adapt a skate park. Everything that we do is about adaptive work. So our actions speak for us, I think, in that realm. And so disclosure is like more of an action-based thing first, and then we get to just show people our competence, just like how you would do. Our actions show our competence, and then we get to explain our vision loss later as a secondary thought or an afterthought, which is actually really nice, because then we get to be who we are and let our sight loss be kind of in that background, which is kind of what we all would like, right? So my advice then is work in adaptive fields. And then the disclosure does its own thing for you. That's my advice, I guess.
Okay. What was the question again?
Disclosure.
Oh yeah, disclosure. Sorry. So for myself, I have most of my vision. And I don't usually, I don't use a visual aid at all. So I don't have a guide dog or a white cane. So for me, I don't usually disclose until I get the job. So then, and most people who I've worked with, they're like, "Oh, you are? Are you sure?" I'm like, "I'm pretty sure."
Yeah.
I don't know if I have to confirm that with you.
Yeah.
But basically, I will tell my colleagues or my director straight up like what I need, what I can't really see, especially in the early childhood field. It's mainly like sweeping because of contrast. And glass breaking. If it breaks in little pieces, can't help you with that. Sorry, kids. And splinters too. Oh, go find somebody else. Can't do it for you. It's not because I don't care. It's because I can't see it. And yeah, I don't really disclose it until I get the job. And I'm pretty open now that I've joined the Young Leaders. I wasn't as open in high school because I was less confident. So I'm glad that joining this group made me more confident.
Solid words right there. Join the Young Leaders and you become more confident. Whoa. I like it. Yeah. I like it. All right. One more question here for you guys. What are some of the biggest challenges that you faced or you thought you would face going into what you're doing, and how did you overcome these?
Okay. This is so. Honestly, the hardest challenges I normally face is when people want to do physical things. So they want to give me papers, or they want me to work on actual like hardware. So working on their computer. Especially, I have a lot of friends who will kind of bring stuff over to my house and ask me to repair it. I don't do that. Okay, it's just too small. Stop. Anyway, but yeah, so it's good. But no. Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is just getting over some of those hurdles, and I like to have a lot of things digital because I know how to make them accessible. That's sort of what I do. So, yeah, and so really just getting over that barrier, and then the other part, especially as an entrepreneur, if anybody's considering it, it is very stressful. You don't know what's happening, and so that's really hard to get over. But I think there might be more on that later.
I think with my biggest challenge with Pace Kids is like learning all my coworkers non-visually. Like how the challenge goes, trying to learn a bunch of people. We have like 250 staff at Pace Kids, so just learning who I need to talk to, who I need to approach to get certain projects done. It's all been a big challenge of getting to know my coworkers by hearing them instead of seeing them. I think that's my biggest challenge. I think the answer to that though is that Pace Kids is such an adaptive, inclusive environment already, just for the children that we serve and the families that we have the privilege of serving. So my, being the token blind guy at work just kind of works in my favor for people to approach me and say their name first, and people are really adaptive. So I think the challenge for me is to just be really intentional with the way that I get to know people. And for me at Pace Kids, that's been taking people out for coffee for one-on-ones. So to get to know people a little more rather than just in passing in hallways, which for non-visual learners is just not enough to memorize, like the sound of a voice or a mannerism or, just the way someone, like the style someone says hello to you. It's just hard to do meeting people in passing. So one thing that I've been doing is going around all of Pace Kids, annoying the crap out of everybody by taking them for lunch or coffee or working with them in their office and interviewing them about their time at Pace Kids and being really intentional with my relationships, which helps me get to know people non-visually, and then I just remember their names way better if I get to know them on a way more meaningful and personal level. That's been awesome. And then they get to know me, and then they learn that I'm a blind skateboarder, and then they think I'm awesome, and it's a huge boost to my ego. So I love the attention, and just really intentionally getting to know people has been a huge help for me to get to know my community at work and who I need to talk to get my projects done. That's been really good. So being in a relationship, going for lots of coffees, inviting myself over for barbecue, planning. I just went with one of my coworkers on a jazz walk around town where we went and saw a couple jazz artists in different cafes. So, just like really intentional relationship building has been my biggest tool for getting getting to know people non-visually. And then with skateboarding, honestly, the biggest challenge is selling the idea of skateboarding just to anybody. Stepping on a skateboard is intimidating, but then selling the idea of skateboarding to the parents of kids is it's kind of a task. The way I've gotten by it is shaping and forming language to really explain skateboarding in a way that they understand. So a lot of people hear skateboarding, they think about big movements, jumping down stairs, huge risk factors. And I've, over the years, have been able to develop like a set of language, like a couple of elevator sentences that really distill skateboarding down into this really manageable, lower risk activity that's good for everyone. Like skateboarding, I believe, is for everybody. You just need to scale it down into an appropriate learning level. And so my challenge with skateboarding and skatebats is explaining or selling it to people and making it a viable community for lots of people. And the key there is to really think about the language and really think about the way that you're explaining skateboarding to people to distill it down into something that is manageable to learn and appropriate to learn and safe to learn. So it's all about the rhetoric and I'm a writer at Pace Kids and I'm kind of a writer for skatebats as well. So it's all in the language. I blacked out. What did I say? Did that make sense?
No, it made sense.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, cool.
It didn't make sense. Some of the challenges that I face is helping, try to get parents and my colleagues and the children try to understand what I can and can't see. It's kind of like, even though I tell them, they don't really know, and they still do the same thing. Oh, it's over there.
Yeah.
I'm like, where? Underwear? And it's like, underwear? So what? Keep in mind, I do work with 3 to 5 year olds, so they're all very up there in their bathroom talks.
Yeah.
But and then sometimes when I see them out in public wise, that's not in our daycare, they'll kind of call me out in the parking lot or anything. I'm like, I'll just do the general, hi, see you tomorrow. And then the next day, like, hi, I saw you in the parking lot. You didn't see me? I'm like, there's so many families, I can't see you. Yeah. But hi, it's so nice to see you out in public. And then, as I said previously too about the glass, that's also glass sweeping and the splinters, those are also some of my challenges. And also scanning as well. So in scanning is really important in the early childhood, so we can make sure that the safety of the children are there. But for most of the other teachers, they just stand in one spot and they try to look as much as the yard as possible or the space. For me, my scanning is walking around in circles to make sure that I can actually see all the kids. And I've been called out by some other teachers saying that, oh, you're just walking around, you're not like actually watching the kids. So I'm trying to like explain, I'm like, well, that's how I watch the kids.
Yeah.
Or do you want me to run after them? I can do that, which I do. Yeah, so that's a few of my challenges.
All right, thank you. So I asked you guys some general questions. I'm going to ask you guys specific questions to each of you now, depending on what you've answered. So we'll start off with Alan. Alan, you're basically an entrepreneur. What sparked you to begin your entrepreneurial journey? And what was your tipping point? Like, what got you from working in private field for a big company, and now you're doing your own thing?
Yeah, so the short answer is all of you, like in terms of I want to give back to people that have disabilities, that have visual impairments, and be able to use tech in a way that, make sure that everybody can equally, be a part of life and do the things that they want to do. Skateboarding sounds amazing. If you want technology, we can maybe figure that out. Sure. Yeah. Anyway, so that's the short answer. The longer version of this story, which I will tell you because I have a little bit of time, I think, is my entire family, well, not entire, but like most of my family is visually impaired, including like my grandparents, my parents, my cousins and uncles and stuff like that. So, there's a lot. And so I was really supported growing up. And I was really involved with like CNIB and a number of other organizations, and went to meetings and stuff and youth groups pretty much my entire childhood. And as soon as I got into university, I started getting involved with different groups that were there. And, I became a rep on the student union, which if anybody is in university, I highly recommend you get involved with things like that. It's a really rewarding experience, and it gives you different skills and really lets you go through it. And I got more and more involved. I currently work with an organization called NEEDS, the National Educational Association of Disabled Students. Again, for any post-secondary people, I highly recommend you look into it, which is needs.ca. They have one called disabilityawards.ca, which is the largest repository of disability-specific scholarships, which is really important. So if you want to go to school, it's a great resource. Anyway, I'm also, the other part of telling you this story is I'm also the youth representative on the Council of Canadians with Disabilities, or CCD, which means that, you guys, if you have issues with like the federal government, if you have problems with, different things that have to do with national stage sort of advocacy stuff, come talk to me, because I have ins with people and I can get, meetings and stuff. So yeah, that's one part. And then in terms of why I'm telling you all this and how it relates to my entrepreneurial stuff is, again, I just had that passion, and, I was spending probably a few hours every evening doing this stuff. It was what drove me. And in my professional life, I was getting sort of hinted at that I would need to take more security training to get further in my career because I was in a security related field. And I kind of stopped and took a beat and kind of, to I think what Bobby was saying earlier, reevaluated what did I want to be doing, where did I want to be going, and I realized it wasn't really security, that was that sort of accessibility piece. And so I decided to change gears and go chase rainbows and unicorns, as I like to say to people. But so that's sort of my story.
Awesome. Thanks. Matt, question for you is a little bit different, but similar.
I had that question lining up in my brain.
Well, it's basically the same thing.
Oh, okay.
You got skate bats, right? That's what some people would consider kind of risky, right? Wow. Right? Like, how do you get inspired to go and start something like that, and then take on that responsibility to also teach people who probably have a higher chance of hurting themselves? Right? You know what I mean, right? Like, let's hear your thoughts.
Okay. Well, what inspired me to start skate bats, like I before mentioned, we had this pro skateboarder, fully blind, come to Calgary and do a demonstration. But that was a one and done deal. He was coming up from Chicago, stayed in Calgary for one day, and then left. And then we saw that the original registration was 30 low vision kids signed up for this event, which if you've joined a program, that's a lot of kids coming out to try one sport. And we weren't satisfied with, and I think 15 of those kids showed up. So we had a big group of kids come up. to check out skateboarding for themselves to see if it was for them. But with this event, it was a one-time deal. So Dan Mancina came up, skated for a bit, and then went back down, and then there was no other programming. And my buddies, meanwhile, were like watching me lose my sight, watching me do silly things like run into poles or accidentally enter the women's washroom, stuff like this.
Of course, they don't help you. They just watch.
No,
you.
they help me get into the women's washroom because they think it's funny. So it's easier with a white cane. You can explain yourself a little bit better. No, we saw two things. We saw that there was a need that low vision kids here in Calgary wanted to skateboard. That was a need that was prevalent. And then my friends also saw that I was losing sight, but still skateboarding really well. Like there was something in skateboarding that made it, something in skateboarding makes it itself inherently accessible to different types of people. I mean, with the adaptive community, we have now like the sit and skate community, the wheelchair community really taking over skate parks for themselves, and it really works for them. We have like all these blind professional skateboarders in the States. There's like 5 fully sponsored full-time skateboarders who are fully blind now in the States. Skateboarding being a free-form, creativity-based activity, there's no rules in skateboarding to tell you how to do it. Your skateboarding is your skateboarding. And so I've been making it work for myself for a long time now, even with severe vision loss over the past 5 years. And there was a need. We saw like 15 kids show up to try it for themselves. So without any other programming planned in the future for them. So really SkateBats has just fulfilled a need that was just immediately apparent. And it's been great. It's been successful. In terms of what did you had a question about risk? I love empowering people to push themselves and to explore something that takes courage, but also explores something that demands of them to evaluate risk and see if they can rise up to the challenge or if it's too risky. So that's a huge way to grow. It's a pretty immediate way to grow, like falling off your skateboard and then getting back up and trying it again is really valuable. It really teaches you how to be tough. But at the same time, skateboarding doesn't have to be risky. What's our rule? What's rule number 1, Gabe? There's 5 number 1 rules. Yeah, I'm bad at setting rules. If you're gonna fall, you bail. Yeah, so in skateboarding, there's systems to keep you safe. Like we never stay on our boards. In fact, if you watch a pro skateboarder attempt a big trick on, say, like a big 18-stair handrail, they never land it first try. And in fact, pro skateboarders never land anything first try. They always have to go back and back and back. One of my favorite skateboarders, he went to a certain spot 5 times. He skated there 3 hours each time, and that was all to land 1 trick. And so skateboarding is inherently, it's freeform, it's creative, and so you can do whatever you want. You can find something that works for you. And then we love failure, or we love success by failure. So like, try, fall off, that's totally accepted. Try again, fall off. You could try for 3 hours. You could never land a trick. We'd still be stoked on you. It's about trying. So we really teach skateboarding in a manageable way, small learning steps. And I'm always teaching bail if you need to, get off that board if you need to, stay safe when you need to. And we're teaching a system of skateboarding that actually takes risk into account, but really does a good job at mitigating that risk and making sure you have those systems. Get away from the board, essentially, if any one little thing feels bad. So skateboarding just lends itself to that. I forget what I'm talking about. What was the question again?
Oh, we're talking about your inspiration.
Inspiration for SkateBats. Yeah. There was a huge need. Skateboarding lends itself to all different types of people, and we're proving that with our participation with SkateBats. So, and then with Pace Kids, my journey of making skateboarding adaptive just led into Pace Kids, because Pace Kids is all about making education adaptive for children. So, it just like perfectly led to one to the other, and so it was really smooth transition. Yeah, you good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. That goes back to Haamid.
Shoot.
That's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
No worries. Yeah, Matt, I liked how you touched on that. I think what you guys really teach is you guys develop grit for people, right? There's grit, and you teach persistence, essentially, for challenges that you can use for plenty of challenges. It doesn't have to be only skateboarding, right?
Yeah.
You can kind of go overcome the challenges Jacqueline, your question is a little bit different. You're in early childhood education, or as you guys call it, ECE. For those who might be interested, what are the different streams that people can go into? Like, what are the different opportunities in that field?
Thank you. So they can go into behavioral intervention, which is part of so currently in my daycare, we have a few children who are hard of hearing, autistic, and have a bunch of other disabilities. They could also be assistance license of ECE, so they can't really be alone with the children, but they have to be with one of the educators. They can be an after-school program teacher. They can be an educational consultant, a nanny, a principal, a kindergarten teacher, a child care director, and a professor in early childhood.
Cool. So I'm going to go one more question around here probably, and then we might be out of time. So I'll go back to Alan. You've kind of experienced the corporate lifestyle with Microsoft, and now you're kind of doing your own thing. What are the advantages and disadvantages of each of those? And, how do you differentiate the two for accessibility and also just general work culture?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to start with saying that Microsoft is actually a really great company in terms of culture. So in terms of, they do have these things called resource groups, I think they are. I can't remember off the top of my head, sorry. But basically they have little communities within sort of the organization. So for instance, I started one within my division for people with disabilities. It was super cool and really interesting to hear people's experiences and how they got through their day jobs, and especially different people that did stuff in data science or did things in sort of project management and sort of all over the place. So it was really cool and really interesting to hear those stories. And so in terms of Microsoft, they were really good about those sorts of things, but a lot of companies aren't. Even though Microsoft did have those opportunities and that it was really good that way, there still was a lot of expectations, I guess, is the best way to put it. And especially when it came to there were some situations where there was really small text and it took me a long time to read and stuff like that. And so it sometimes came to some hot conversations. So that was not so much fun. And I think I've had that in sort of different workplaces. And in terms of culture, it can always be really difficult when you do need those situations that are maybe just a little bit more tricky because of your disability for whatever reason. But changing tack to a much happier note, I'm doing my own company. I have subcontractors and employees myself, and I make sure that they know that they take the time they need, that the culture where they're working, mostly for me, is to allow them to do the things that they need to get done. Now I do have deadlines. That doesn't mean I'm going to let them slack off, but they can get what they need and they can do it in the time they need and in the ways that they need. So I think it's really, and I always have that conversation. One of the first conversations I have with people is, okay, how do you work? How do you want to work? What are the things that you need? And really just going through that whole practice. And I think, again, Microsoft was really good about some of those things, but then, when the rubber hit the road, so to speak, or when it came into reality, it didn't quite come out that way. But, hopefully that was more of a one-off situation, or like the manager and stuff like that. But to say that not all companies are great, but especially working for myself, it's been really good. And I know, one of the rewarding things about working for myself and coming to places like this conference and different organizations and stuff like that is talking to people that are doing innovative things, that are having these conversations, that are changing cultures. And so it's really great that it is changing, but it is slow, and it may take some effort, but I think if you can get through that barrier, it's a really rewarding process.
Perfect. Matt, I have a little bit of a two-part question for you, but hopefully we'll try and keep it a little shorter. With skate bats, you kind of touched on what you guys do to make it more accessible for people. So if you want to touch on like some of the hurdles you face with kind of adjusting? Because I guess it's fairly new still, right? You guys have been along forever. And then the same thing with what you do for with Pace Kids. Like, what kind of accessive technologies do you use there?
Okay. Well, like you said, it's grassroots with SkateBat, so we kind of we call it a little bit guerrilla warfare with our like strange adaptive techniques. Like I said before, we buy a large amount of really bright colored duct tape, and then we mark up the skate park in ways that are specific for our vision. So usually when we're at a skate park, if we're approaching a ramp that we can't see, we'll put a bright color, a bright strip of like white and pink and yellow or whatever color we're feeling, a big bright line at the very beginning of that ramp. That gives us just a little bit more contrast to see the beginning of that ramp, so we're not surprised. You know, if you're heading into a ramp, you don't see it, you splat into it like a pancake. But if you can see that transition, you can adjust your body position, get your legs ready, your core muscles. You can do all the things you need to do to stay on the skateboard. So every little transition, every little angle change, we address with like high colored duct tape, high contrast duct tape. We've even played with like little strips of wire, like just whatever wire you can buy at a hardware store. We place that wire underneath strips of duct tape for like haptic feedback underneath the board. So, you know, when you're rolling down the sidewalk on a skateboard, you can feel the bump, a bump, a bump. We create bumps like that specifically in specific locations to give you like a bit of a haptic feedback as to when you're approaching, say, a ramp, when you're approaching a specific spot where you need to ollie off of a ramp. We have some haptic feedback. We've used like LED lighting strips before in our indoor skate parks where we have access to power. There's a few indoor skate parks here in Calgary. They've all partnered with us very graciously. Compound Skate Park in Ramsey have donated like $2,000 to us in terms of their skateboarding rental, like facility rental. So very supportive community here in Calgary. Yeah, we've used like audio stuff. So everything is like really grassroots, kind of guerrilla warfare, where we're doing it ourselves because there's really no such thing as an adaptive skate park. There's conversations about it. Our presence in skateboarding has made that conversation a little more apparent. But really, to get over the challenges of adapting skateboarding for ourselves, it's just like a little bit graffiti. It's a little bit putting duct tape on a skate park when maybe you might not be allowed to. But that's what skateboarding's all about. It's all about pushing those rules. It's all about kind of being a rebel. And what ends up happening is when we do kind of rebel against the skate park, we make our adaptations, whether people want that or not. It always makes the skate park better for even other people. So one thing I've noticed is whenever we duct tape up some obstacle, all the other users, the fully sighted users, begin to use that obstacle more because it's more visually appealing. It has more color on it. And so what we do actually makes skate parks better for everybody. So we rebel, we kind of put down these rebel materials, we're kind of punk rock about it, but then it just makes the skate park better for everybody. So we feel very validated. And then with Pace Kids, what was the question again, sorry?
Pace Kids, just what kind of technologies do you
Oh,
use?
what tech do I use? Oh yeah, so for skatebats, it's duct tape. Pretty simple. But then at work, I'm very lucky to have all my adaptive tech supplied to me by Pace Kids. I use Zoom to text on my computer. I'm zooming in and out. It's a little clumsy, but it works for me. And then here in this room, I have a very wonderful teacher, Megan Hargrave. Yay, Megan! Woohoo! She's teaching me. Sorry, putting you in the center of attention. She's actually teaching me JAWS and NVDA and all this stuff. And so I'm learning how to use a computer non-visually. And I have both of those programs on my computer. So I switch back and forth as I need. I use my cane at work. I've been making little markers for myself on like the microwave and like little markers on the handrails where the stairs meet a landing, stuff like this. My company, working with disabled kids, just makes my company culture perfectly. It makes it perfect for them to adapt my workspace for me with whatever I need. We use iPads and communication devices for kids when they're nonverbal. And that's just naturally part of Pace Kids. So I get to use my wonderful talking computer. I bring my talking computer to interviews with families and they are totally understanding. And it's really cool. So lots of, I call it, what's my voice? Daniel? Daniel is my voice. Does anyone else use Daniel? And I pretend I'm Batman and he's Alfred and he's my little sidekick. So yeah. Oh, right. Sorry.
It's all good. Jacqueline, this one's also quite similar. What kind of strategies have you deployed to help you, do what you do every day? And what kind of do you use any technology, anything at all, to help make your life easier at work or in life in general, really?
Thank you. Well, for most people in my field, they're all quite old-fashioned. They all like to use paper and everything, which I can see for the most part, but they write really small, which doesn't help me at all. And they also use a communication book, so it's kind of like it's a notepad and everything, which I've encouraged everyone to write much larger. Not as large as they think that I need, but just bigger print, which is helpful too. But I have advocated for myself to use more Google Docs, Google Calendar, everything. And everyone has no idea how to use it, and I have to teach them. And then I'm like, okay, it's fine. I'll teach you as long as we can use this in like daycare. And then so far, like in general, in our center, we have been using like Google Calendar and everything, but I've been needing it more than other people. So that's my strategy of how to kind of like make my job easier in that sense. But also a different one is that I have my phone on me at all times. So that's my magnifying glass too. And I use the kids' eyes as a magnifying glass too. So if they spot anything,
Yeah.
What does that say?
they're like, no, well, maybe not that because they can't read. They're too young. But they say, oh, look at that thing on the ground. It's like, where? What? Go pick it up. I'll touch it. But as long as it's not poop, it's fine. Don't make me touch any garbage or anything. But I'll touch everything else. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. The children, I use them as eyes too. So even when they say over there, good thing some of them are toddlers because even their over there is nowhere. So, yeah.
Seeing eye children, I call them.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thanks to all of our panelists here for giving us an insight into what they do every day. I think we've kind of touched near the end of our time. If there is any last minute questions, we will be happy to ask. All right. Don't be shy. Put your hands up. But Morgan will tell me if anyone's hands up.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Maybe for Matt, but maybe for everyone. Have you seen bullying?
Have I seen what, sorry?
Bullying on the skate park and in school and business? Have you seen bullying?
No, I don't think so.
No. That's good.
Okay. Oh, bullying.
Bullying.
Oh,
There it is, Mike.
I thought you said bowling. I was like, I like bowling, but I haven't seen bowling at a skate park. Yo, that'd be kind of sick though, like off a ramp. Bullying at a skate park. I mean, skate parks are pretty hostile places. They're still like boys clubs, and they're still kind of exclusive to like if you don't skate, get out kind of mentality.
Which is the opposite of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Bringing people in, right?
But skateboarding is growing up these days. Like now we have guys my age, who skateboarded when they were young, but who are now getting into their 30s and their 40s, who are working careers. Like the heroes that I look up to work for like Hull Services. They use skateboarding as a supplementary tool in trauma recovery therapy. Or like I have another friend who uses skateboarding in the school system as an after-school program. So. As much as skateboarding is kind of a dummy boy sport back in the 80s, it's grown up with its constituency, and now we're all doing things for the betterment of our community and for the betterment of skateboarding itself. And so adaptive skateboarding is like really popular right now for some reason. It's just cool. Like Dew Tour, a huge contest series, just put out their first adaptive portion of their contest, where wheelchair skate park users were allowed, blind skateboarders, they were allowed to compete for the first time at Dew Tour. So adaptive skateboarding, we're really at the beginning of the wave of adaptive skateboarding, and it's actually a pretty sick thing in skateboarding. So whenever we show up with our canes at a skate park, people are more just interested and then even stoked that we're there. So I haven't seen any bullying in terms of people bullying us. And if anything, we bully other people. We like, get out of our way, and then we hit them with our cane. Maybe we're the bullies, I don't know.
to be punk rock.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Well, on that note, I think we're going to wrap up. Thank you so much,
All right.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.